Get ready to go.
All right, welcome to the back.
That one's on me. Here, we'll get that fired back up.
Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
All right, this show is called Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us, 865-658-5824. Join alongside Emilio, who screwed up the intro, and Tim in Green Bay. We won't give Emilio's location tonight. But how are we doing tonight, fellas?
Yeah,
Good to be here, man.
doing well, getting ready to go, but I think I hit it too late. When you threw that candy up in the air and caught it, Clay, I thought I had a second to get it, but
No.
Get ready to go.
If you think you got time, you're going to run out of time. You know
You're
what
late.
I'm saying?
Yes. If you think you have time, you're late. That's
Yeah.
what we got to get Jordan Love on this year. No time, man. Get that ball out of your hand. Get out of the pocket.
Exactly. Tim, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm fine. You
No,
know,
you're not. I can see
I
it.
am.
You're like, why
I'm
am I
just-
here? What am I doing?
I'm just wondering if I'm going to screw anything up now since we're off to a roaring start.
All right. Well, I guess
Maybe I'll mess up the intro or the outro of the show at the
There
end.
you go.
Do that. How about that?
exactly. Well, let's just jump in here. We got some news on Packers Twitter. I know the chat's filing in. Appreciate y'all making us part of your evening. If you would hit that like button on the way in. I don't know why you would, but we greatly appreciate it. So Lily, how do you say her last name? Is it Zhao?
Yep.
How do you
Lily
say it?
Zhao. Yep.
Lily Zhao, who covers the Packers, said Packers announced their tailgate tour will feature Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, Lucas Van Ness, and alumni Amon Green, Jermichael Finley, and John Michaels. Not Shawn Michaels, John Michaels, all right, along with Mark Murphy. It's set for April 8th through the 12th, starting in Milwaukee. Guys, that would be a fun tailgate tour to be a part of right there.
Absolutely.
That's some
Yeah,
big names there.
And you might need to make a trip wherever they're stopping. We might need to get a firsthand account. That sounds like a good group right there. You got Tuck, Josh, LVN. I mean, Amon. Come on now.
Have Jermichael Finley in the back of the bus, bad mouthing Aaron Rodgers the whole time. That'd be a good time, wouldn't it? Just everybody keep the drama flowing. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Is he still
Poor
pissed
Aaron,
off
that
at
was
him?
like one of the best tight ends he ever had, and all the guy does is drag him. You know,
I know.
Yeah.
crazy.
Crazy. So anyway, tailgate tour looks like it's going to be absolutely awesome this year. And listen, tip your cap to Mark Murphy again. I wonder if he'll continue to be a part of that moving forward, even though he's not technically the acting president / CEO. You know what I mean? I could see him kind of still wanting to do that and be around the team. I think that'd be awesome. So there you go with that. Next news here. Liam Cohen. We talked about him earlier, right? It looks like he is going to be the head coach in Jacksonville. As a matter of fact, after I tweeted this, I think they actually announced he is being hired. So Liam Cohen is going to be the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Once again, I don't think any of us were concerned about Jeff Hafley potentially getting that job, but obviously they go a different route there. This sounds like a Jaguars hire, to be honest with you. Like, I think we're going to look up in 2 years and they're looking for another head coach. What do you guys think about this? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. It's really going to have to come down to how they hire, from the top down. How are you going to build that team? How are you going to build the board? The fact that they waited to do everything else till right now, after all the other coaches, kind of got picked through, is, I guess, up to them.
Tim, anything?
Yeah, I have riveting input on this. Yeah, it's
All right, there you go.
listen up real close to all the great things I have to say about Jacksonville as a franchise. None of this stuff surprises me at all. But we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball, right?
Well, Tim, they have a swimming
They
pool.
could be lit, man. They could be lit.
They have a swimming pool in their stadium, second level. Come on now.
All right, so right before we went live, I noticed this tweet. I think it was from yesterday or maybe it was earlier today, I guess. 3013 put a tweet out, and they said a trade pitch that would land Max Crosby in Green Bay. So I want to get your all's take on it. I put a Twitter poll up, and we're going to see what the results of that poll question were. But here's the trade pitch. The Packers give up their 2025 second-round pick, so the second rounder in this year's draft, and next year's third rounder for Max Crosby. And I'm going to give you guys a second to think about it here. I want to know what you think about that. Would you pull the trigger on that trade or not? The Twitter poll question, I asked that very question, and let me tell you something. Packers Twitter said absolutely. 83.8% of the votes, and we got 291 votes in as of right now. And only 16.2% said no. So this is unanimous across Packers Twitter. They would love to give up this year's second and next year's third for Max Crosby. What do you guys think about that? What would you be willing to do that? And then I'm going to kind of give you my take on it. I don't want to sway y'all in any way.
Man, Packer fans, we love our big names, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
We love big names. I'm in the 16.2%. We'll just put it that way.
Got it.
Yeah, I think I'm at a no as well, Tim. I don't love a second and a third. That's a little rich for me.
Got it.
Clay?
You too drunk to take that.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe catch me on like a Thursday, maybe catch me on like a, Taco Tuesday or something, and maybe we can talk about it. But
gotcha. CJN says yes. Right. From the tribe of Yehuda says absolutely. All right. Ron Sample says he voted no. Respect Oranges says that's too rich for them, right? Greg Rice says, does that equal a first-round pick? I don't think it would equal a first-round pick. We'd have to look at the trade chart. To be honest with you, Greg, I don't know.
What do they say? The second this year is technically a third next year. So it would be
yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So it would be
the way it works is like if you were to trade a second rounder, or let's say you traded a second rounder this year, you would get a first rounder next year. So you kind of climb up one round if you trade out of that year back a year, right? So yeah, this would be maybe next year's third would be like a fourth rounder this year. So
I think it's just the two that's really bugging me more than anything. That third next year isn't horrible, being maybe a fourth, but that two up front is too rich.
Yeah. CJN says if it was a 2025 second and third, I'd say no. But because it's 2026 third, I'm fine with it. All right, got it. Respect Oranges again, too rich. Ron Sample says you still got to pay the man, right? That's the other aspect. How does it fit within the model of your roster, right? Brambo says, I don't know what y'all talking about. That's an easy yes. Yeah. J. Cole says Judah. All right, cool. Chris N says no, but I'm a hater. All right. Prince says chicken, too drunk. You know the thing. Oh, I see what he did there. I think Jake Shavink said he'd rather do a DK deal. All right, got that. Let's see here. Daryl says, but is Max Crosby set to become a free agent? I don't know what his contract is, to be honest with you. I want to say there's at least one more year on the deal. There may be multiple. I'm looking at it strictly from is it worth it to get that player in return, for those draft picks? Dan says, I'd do a third and a third, but not a second. So he would kind of come back and say, hey, we'll give you 2/3.
Let's ask the real question. I mean, are the Raiders interested in Jair Alexander?
Oh, Tim. Man, I'll tell you. This year, I did not have this on my bingo card. That's very interesting when you think about it.
I mean, we're talking about auctioning off our future draft capital for a guy. I mean, what about a guy who's 1 foot out the door already? You know,
I want to get everybody
just thinking out loud.
Yeah, and I've got kind of a thought on it, and I'll tell you guys whether I would do it or not. But I wanted to kind of get everybody else's opinion in here. Greg S says I would love Max, but that's a lot of money on the edge. Talking about between him and Gary, right?
Yeah.
Brambo said that too could be anything. It could even be Max Crosby. It's a good point.
You think that's Brambo's? He said yes. So you think that's how he's just going to the Raiders, selling it to him? That too could be anything. It could even be a Max Crosby. Do the deal. Like trade him over.
Could be. From the Tribe says no. He has 2 more years left. So you're actually getting I'm assuming that means this year and next year, or are you saying this year and then 2 more years? Not that I guess it really matters that much, right? Jake Shavink says Crosby has some high base salary, so obviously you do a little bit of converting of that salary. You could probably free up some cap space and make it a little more tolerable. Respect Oranges, then why not take the boat? All right. Greg Rice, can we do a 3rd now and a 2nd next year if he plays 65% of our defensive snaps? That's an interesting take.
He's not going to play
65%.
65%. That's what
because we run a hockey line. So
See, that's
that would be the perfect thing to walk him. Oh, yeah. Let's do a 2nd. If not, it'll just be a 6th. And if he doesn't get 65% of snaps, we'll call it good. Call it good with a 6th.
That was a big conversation on Twitter where I put up those comparisons of how Rashawn Gary has basically outperformed Max Crosby this year. And they said, yeah, but Max Crosby plays, 90-some% of the snaps and Gary can't. It's like, if you think Max Crosby would come over here and play 90% of the snaps, you don't understand Matt LaFleur. Like, that's not a Max Crosby thing. That's not even a Rashawn Gary thing or an LVN thing. That's a Matt LaFleur thing. And the reason it's a Matt LaFleur thing is because they did it last year too, right? Yeah. And that was Joe Barry, obviously, as DC. So, I don't know, man. I just thought it would be an interesting little conversation to have there. But I kind of like what Greg Rice is thinking there. Daryl in the chat says, I know Eric Stokes will become a free agent. That's why Goody minus 1 year of his rookie contract. J. Cole says Ja and a 2nd-round pick, ? Would you boys do that? Hold up a minute. Meaning we give up a 2nd-round pick and Jair for Max Crosby? I think that's what they're saying, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. I don't know. That's
Dan the Stan man said Ja in a 2025 3rd. That's maybe a little better, but still maybe a 26 3rd. Further away, don't have to worry about it. Maybe we can work some more trades and get it back. But that 2nd is definitely. I think it's the 2 that's really too rich for me.
Respect Orange just says a boat's a boat, but the mystery box can be anything. It could even be a boat.
The book can also be a hat.
All right. So here's kind of how I see it. These picks are going to turn into players, right? And many people, when we trade draft picks, we never revisit those trades. You don't go back and go, okay, what did we actually trade? Who was our most recent 2nd-round pick? Edgerrin Cooper.
Our most recent, Edgerrin.
He was 2nd, with 2nd round.
Who was our most recent 3rd-round pick?
Evan Williams?
Javon Bullard.
Or Bullard, yeah.
Javon was 2nd, right? Or was he?
He was 3rd.
Was he a 3rd?
Yeah.
So the question for me becomes, would you trade Edgerrin Cooper and Javon Bullard for Max Crosby?
Hell no.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Negative.
Now let's go back to last year, right? Who was the 2nd-round pick last year? It was Jaden Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Jaden Reed and Musgrave, right? Who was the 3rd-round pick last year? Tucker Kraft. Would you trade Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft for Max Crosby? That's why it's a no for me, dog. As Randy once said on that show that Emilio watches a lot. What's the name of that show, Emilio?
That's a no for me, dog.
Yeah. What was that? Was that American Idol? No.
Yeah. Randy Jackson. Yeah. Yep.
You know Randy Jackson.
Yeah, I even had him sign my sword. I saw Randy Jackson, and you're going to have him sign something, right? All I had on me was my katana.
Yeah. Jake said Bullard was a 2nd. That's what I was thinking. So last year it would have been give up either Bullard or Edgerrin Cooper and whoever the 3rd-round pick was. I can't remember who the 3rd-round pick was.
Was it Lloyd?
Yep, Marshawn Lloyd. There you go. I bet a bunch of people go, trade Marshawn Lloyd. We haven't even seen him on the field yet, right? So, I don't know, man. That's the way I look at it. Those are going to turn into players. When you look at the 2nd-round picks over, Goody's kind of track record here, he's dipped pretty good, right, with 2nd-round picks. So, if it was 2/3, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But, again, you guys know how I feel about the whole modeling the roster, man. That's great. You throw 2 great edge defensive ends out there, right? Two edge defenders.
What does that do to help us in the middle?
Right. And how does adding Max Crosby while losing a potential Jaden Reed or a potential Javon Bullard or a potential Edgerrin Cooper or a potential Tucker Kraft, how does adding Max Crosby beat the Eagles this last year?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We got our ass kicked because our offensive line, our backup left guard, who Emilio said was all world, got crushed. All right.
You're never going to let him live that down, are you?
You wait. I'll stay quiet. I mean, he's like a duck on water. You know, you don't know what those feet are doing under the water. That's what I'm saying.
So how about we trade? Would you guys trade Travis Glover in a 3rd round pick?
No.
Hell yeah.
No shot.
No shot. All right, so there you go. Again, the fans have spoken, and we're up to 357 votes. It's unanimous, boys. 84.6 of Packer fans who voted on this said, yeah, we would do that. We pull the trigger on that. So that's it. That is your trade talk for Max Crosby, obviously potentially coming to the Packers. I'd like to have Max for the right price. I'd like to have Max as long as you didn't have to give up too much.
Yep.
You know, the way I would see it is keep your 2nd and 3rd round pick and go sign Khalil Mack for a year or two. You know, that way you hold on to your draft capital. You get an edge defender that played much better than Max Crosby last year, to be honest with you, right? And I know people will immediately say that Max was playing hurt. I'm sure there's some validity to that argument, but it's just kind of how I see it there. So let's go to the Patreon group here real quick. We got several different Patreon messages / questions. Anything else you guys want to add to that trade talk there? I'm sorry, I should have asked.
No,
I totally agree with what you said, that, you know, we shouldn't get this twisted. I think all of us would agree we'd want Max Crosby on our team, but just not giving up our future in the process, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. Greg S. in the PTA Patreon group. If you want to join the Patreon group, just scan the QR code in the upper right or go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. We got 1 of 3 tiers you can join over there, get you access to these chats, be a part of the community, also get you entered into giveaways, which we're going to be giving away an autographed Dorsey Levens jersey this coming week. So we'll just put everybody's name who is a member on Patreon as well as here on YouTube, and spin the wheel, the Larry McCarron pinky wheel, and whoever it lands on, we will give away that autographed jersey too. So this is what Greg S. said over in the Patreon group. He said, "Are we storming Park Avenue? Can we compare the 2 linebacker grades with Cooper?" And he's talking about AP Defensive Rookie of the Year candidates are Cooper DeJean from the Philadelphia Eagles, Braden Fisk, defensive end from the Los Angeles Rams, Quinyon Mitchell, cornerback from the Philadelphia Eagles, Chop Robinson, linebacker from the Dolphins, and Jared Verse, linebacker from the Los Angeles Rams. So obviously what he's saying here is, why in the heck isn't Cooper on this list and these guys are, right? I can see the argument there, but to me, the answer is Cooper's a stack backer, and those linebackers are edge defenders, right? The edge defenders are always going to be flashier. Now, let's just kind of talk about the statistics here. And he's specifically asking about these other 2 linebackers, in Chop Robinson and Jared Verse. Again, just want to specify that they are edge defenders. They're not stack backers. Emilio, just
now, the moderator moderating.
What can I give this right here? Let me see. See what kind of emoji best fits us. There you go, right there. That's what you get, Emilio. All right, so Chop Robinson, let's start with him. Chop Robinson's stats on the year, he played 52.8% of the snaps. He had 6 sacks. He had a quarterback pressure percentage of 17.2%. If you guys are wondering, that's pretty darn good. He actually led his team when it comes to defensive linemen / edge defenders, I'm pretty sure, because there's a couple stack backers that are higher than him, but 17.2%. He also had 20 run stops, okay? So 6 sacks is really the key statistic there for Chop Robinson. In terms of tackles, he only had 26. So, you know, decent for a rookie. Now, Jared Verse, in my opinion, has a much better shot, or is much more worthy of that award there, as Jared Verse finished with 4.5 sacks, okay? And he had 50 run stops on the year, 50 at the edge position. And to kind of put that into perspective, Gary led us with stops, I believe it was, and he ended up with 39 at the defensive line position. That's why that run stop for Jared Verse is like, dang, that's pretty impressive. So pressure percentage for Jared Verse is 16.8% as well. So to me, Jared Verse is more worthy of it than Chop Robinson, personally. And Jared Verse played 74% of the snaps as well, so he was obviously more available. And they've actually got Braden Fisk on this same list here as well. So now to me it becomes between Jared Verse and Braden Fisk of those two, okay? Braden Fisk, rookie, 8.5 sacks. He had 38 run stops, and he had a pressure percentage as an interior defensive lineman of 10.9%. You guys remember Braden Fisk? If I remember correctly, he ran the fastest 40-yard dash of any big boy defensive lineman, someone who would be considered a defensive tackle, right? On our big board last year, he was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the sixth best defensive lineman. Jared Verse was the third best edge defender, and Chop Robinson was the second best edge defender on our board. So pretty wild that the LA Rams have two players that are in the running for Rookie of the Year when you think about it. Obviously, Quinyon Mitchell's had a hell of a year. Cooper DeJean as well. We talked about them all year. Quinyon Mitchell was our top-ranked cornerback. He was our number, 3, 6, 9, our 10th overall prospect. And then Cooper DeJean was our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th best corner on the board. So the point is, why should Edgerrin Cooper win it over Braden Fisk? That's really what it comes down to. Braden Fisk and Quinyon Mitchell. When you look at Edgerrin Cooper's snaps, he played 55% of the snaps. All right. He had 47 run stops. He led the team in that category. He only had 3.5 sacks, but he's playing stack backer. So he finished with a 22.4% quarterback pressure percentage, which is good, don't get me wrong, but as a stack backer, those numbers are crazy inflated. And a passer rating when targeted of 57.1. He also finished with 77 tackles on the year. So I've got to agree with our buddy Greg S. here. I think he probably should have made that list over Chop Robinson. I don't know how you guys feel about it. When you look at Chop's numbers, I mean, again, how many sacks did I say Chop had? Do you guys remember? Was it 3? 6. He had 6.
He had, and he only had what? It said 17 stops.
20 stops. Yep.
20 stops? Okay, I was looking at PFS.
Yeah.
59 pressures. Yes, I mean, he got some pressure, but besides that, I mean, as an overall player, Coop for sure.
Yeah. Yep. That's the other thing here, Tim. Keep in mind, Edgerrin Cooper also had an interception, right? And a passer rating when targeted of only 57.1. So,
and we got kind of cheated out of a handful of games from him too this year, early in the season. So it had been real interesting to see if he didn't have that leg injury starting the year, and we got to see a whole season out of him. We might have a little bit of a different list here, but I mean, it actually makes what Edgerrin Cooper did with the rest of his rookie season that much more impressive, because he basically caught up for lost time and really put up a hell of a year down the stretch. But I really do. I think him not getting a full year is kind of what kept him out of the running. But then again, it's the AP. The AP, I don't, like J. Cole's saying here, the AP are stat nerds and aren't watching the tape. It's like I don't know what the Associated Press's criteria is when they vote on these things,
Yeah, and I like to kind of run this through the filter here. I want to get your take on it, Emilio and Tim. If you took all these rookies and then you add Edgerrin Cooper to the list, who would you take if you could only pick one to start a defense with, right? Would you pick Edgerrin Cooper, Cooper DeJean, Braden Fisk, Quinyon Mitchell, Chop Robinson, or Jared Verse? Again, you're starting a whole new roster, and, hey, you got to pick from that group right there. Who would you pick to put in place for your team, Emilio? You play Madden, you play Ultimate.
That's with Cooper. That's with Cooper, or with excluding Cooper.
That's including Cooper. Would you could take Cooper as well? This is how I look at: is he worthy? Are these players worthy of the Rookie of the Year? Right. That's the true value, in my opinion.
From his production this year, I would say Cooper. The only one that I would maybe push and pull the trigger on would be Braden Fisk, just because that dude's an animal down there. Like when he was in our backfield all the time, and the Rams weren't good at that point. The reason why there's probably 2 Rams on here that are rookies is because they made it to the playoffs. You know what I mean? So that's there's another reason that they're on there. So he would be the only one I might pull the trigger on over Coop.
Tim, what do you think, man?
I'm going Coop. You know, we got to keep it frosty. I'm going with Coop, and I hear totally where you're coming from, Emilio, on your second pick. I would go Jared Verse for my second pick.
Mm-hmm. And for me, you guys know how I treat like specific positions. In the order in which I would take it, I would say Braden Fisk number 1, and number 2 would be close between Jared Verse and Edgerrin Cooper. You know, Jared Verse obviously being tier 1 of importance at the edge position. And let's see, what did he finish with on the year? Jared Verse finished with only 4.5 sacks, but a 16.8% quarterback pressure rate. Run stops, he had 50 run stops. That's huge in the run game. I mean, that's kind of the same impact that like Gary had, right? In the run game this year, so that's huge. For me, I would probably go Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, then Edgerrin Cooper is the order I would go with. So he would be third on my list. So to me, that says I'm not saying he's not worthy of being on this list, but man, if Braden Fisk doesn't win it, I don't know. It feels a little weird, but we haven't even looked at like Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell's stats either. You care if we just take a quick second and pull those up? I'm going to do that and
let's do it.
Let's get it.
Everybody talks like they had a great season. Obviously, PFF thinks they did, right? And we're going to get to the grades, and which is what he was actually asking here in just a second. We'll look at the PFF grades of most of these players, if not all. But, yeah, so Cooper DeJean finished the year with 0 interceptions. I thought okay. 0 interceptions, passer rating when targeted of 78.9. Keep in mind that Edgerrin Cooper's was in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Trying to think. No picks this year?
That's what it's saying. Boy, the way people talked about it, you'd think he had 5 interceptions or something, right?
Yeah, so what? I don't get it. They have a ton of tackles or something? Or
he had 23 stops, and he had 50 tackles, which is pretty good, right? 23 stops. So he was probably physical there in that regard. Now, keep in mind the statistic when we played the Eagles that how the effectiveness of opposing receivers in the slot went way down when he started. I think it was coming out of the bye week there, week 5. Mm-hmm. So take that into consideration. It is what it is. Again, we got the passer rating we targeted in the 70s, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But I want to say Carrington Valentine finished in the 50s, I believe. Let me double check that. If we go passer rating when targeted, Carrington Valentine. Yeah, Carrington Valentine finished with a 69 passer rating when targeted. So he actually had a better passer rating when targeted as a 7th round pick in his second year than Mr. All-World, everybody loves Cooper DeJean, right? So now the PFF grades, I'm sure, are through the roof. That's probably what people fell in love with. Let's look at Quinyon Mitchell real quick. Quinyon Mitchell, passer rating when targeted. Of course, everything resets on me because that's what it does, right? Let me fire this back up. Because Quinyon Mitchell, I think people were saying, had a better year than our boy Cooper DeJean, if I remember correctly. But defensively, let's see here. Passer rating when targeted. Let's see. Cooper DeJean. Where's he at? Where's our boy Quinyon Mitchell at? Wow, is he that low? Holy cow. Quinyon Mitchell had an 88.7 passer rating when targeted. Wow. He had 0 interceptions.
That's crazy.
So it's PFF. PFF is the reason everybody's saying these guys are good, right? So that, and of course, their defense is ranked really high. So
we're starting to figure out how the AP puts together their list.
Kind of feels like it, don't it? Because Braden Fisk, I want to say, had a very high PFF grade as well, right? Matter of fact, let me go ahead and close that out. Well, I better keep that up. I was going to try to pull it up real quick. Edge defenders, which we got 2 of them on here, right? Braden Fisk, let's see, he's not an edge. So we got Jared Verse. Jared Verse finished the year with an 89.3 PFF grade, 7th best in the entire league, and he was a rookie. Right above him was Micah Parsons, Khalil Mack with a 90.2, Nick Bosa with a 91, TJ Watt with a 91.7, Myles Garrett with a 92.3, and Aiden Hutchinson, albeit a shortened season there, with a 94.9. So Jared Verse, extremely high PFF grade. Now, our boy Chop Robinson was fairly low. He was in the 37 spot with a 79.0 PFF grade. Let's see if we can go to defensive linemen now. And We're looking for Braden Fisk, right, from the Rams.
You said Chop had a 79 PFF grade?
What's that?
I said you said Chops had a 79 PFF grade. I looked at it.
It was a 69, I think. 69 or 70.
Okay. I was going to say it said 70 on mine. That's
70. Yeah.
okay. I was going to say, dang, man, PFF is all over the place.
I'm looking for Braden Fisk here, too, with the Rams PFF-wise. And me not seeing it here, Jan. Is he really that low? Was he graded that low? There's Kobe Turner, his teammate. Holy cow. Let me go to the Rams real quick. If he's low, that's pretty wild because those numbers, like, how do you have that good of numbers and be that? Yeah, 57.5. 57.5 for Braden Fisk. So, Tim, they're not going off PFF grades here. Maybe it's a combination of both, right?
Yeah, you know who was the best in the rookie class? That would be Tavondre Sweat. Has him ranked 15th with a 76.2.
For real?
Yeah.
And on the big board, we had him as the number 3 interior defensive lineman. We had Byron Murphy, Jerzon Newton, and then Tavondre Sweat. But Tavondre Sweat, we had in the red because he came in a little overweight, if I remember correctly.
Get this. Tavondre Sweat, 699 defensive snaps. Braden Fisk is the only one with more, with 700.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of criticism for having Tavondre Sweat so high because everybody's going, he's just a nose. You could see him as more than a nose. Moved really, really well. I want to say it was – I can't remember if it was the East-West Shrine game or the Senior Bowl. It's probably the Senior Bowl that there was notes coming out that his lateral quickness was amazing.
Clayton, he literally had 12 snaps in coverage this year. That's
Sweat?
Yeah, that's like 6 times the amount of anybody else. The only other person, Jonah Lalu with 5, and Braden Fisk had 4. That's crazy.
Hashtag fire Joe Barry. What the hell are they doing putting him in coach? So, yeah, interesting, man. Interesting talk there. I'm glad we covered it just to kind of take a look at what these guys did. And obviously, Edgerrin Cooper finished with like an 84 PFF grade, right? So, the PFF grade would say Braden Fisk is not your rookie of the year, but it would say Jared Verse is, right? Based off what we just went through. So, if we looked at the PFF grade for these corners on the Eagles, let's do that real quick and see how that be looking. We can find it here. Where you at, Eagles?
Shout out Damn the Stan. AP sorted PFF rating high to low and chose the top 5.
That's probably what happened, right? Let's see here. Corners. All right, cornerbacks for the Eagles. Of course, it resets again because that's how they do. Cooper DeJean, 77.7. Quinyon Mitchell, 75.5. So, Edgerrin Cooper, now, again, back to his original question, can we compare the grades? That's what he was asking, right? So far, only Jared Verse had a higher PFF grade than Edgerrin Cooper.
Yep.
So
and the only other corner that's in between Cooper and Quinyon is Andrew Phillips with a 77.5. So, I mean, he almost beat out Cooper DeJean as the number 1 rookie. I love that. I mean, but Quinyon Mitchell, 1,029 snaps.
Are you talking about Andrew Phillips from Kentucky?
That's exactly what I'm talking about, Clayton. I knew you heard it.
Isn't it awesome that program came to a screeching halt this year for absolutely no reason? But here we are, right? Of course, Carrington Valentine playing pretty good ball. Andrew Phillips playing good ball. That maybe that has something to do with it, right? Losing a couple of good defensive backs.
Yeah, now we're going to get Deion Walker too. So
if we get Deion Walker, I'm probably getting a jersey. And I'm going to make sure I get it in a 3X so it just hangs off of me. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's going to go. So, again, thanks to our buddy Greg S. and thanks to Emilio saying he's not trading Glover. Also, they're in the Patreon group. All right. Another Patreon question here is in the free agents section. I love that we're doing this, man. I think this stuff's awesome. Anthony Nafke. What was it again this morning, Tim? Do you remember?
Nafke.
Nailed it. Khalil Mack would be near the top of my list, still a dynamic edge rusher. Again, man, for me, 1 to 2 years, if he drops from a 90 into the 80s, he's still going to be so damn effective and take some of those double teams, those chips off of our boy Edgerrin Cooper. And then you turn around and get a 3-tech in the draft. I feel a lot better about that defensive front, me personally. But what do you guys think about Khalil Mack? I know many people were saying they'd much rather have Max Crosby over Khalil Mack. Emilio, would you rather have Khalil Mack or Max Crosby. What are you doing? What is that?
That's the Bulls. That's the old alma mater right there. That's my boy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay.
Boy,
I thought you were talking about Taylor Swift sign or something. I didn't know we were back in the
No,
Swift.
yeah, I'm for Khalil for sure, definitely.
All right. Tim, would you rather have Khalil Mack or would you rather have Max Crosby, man, in a trade?
In a trade?
I mean, Max Crosby's not a free agent, so
Yeah, so Khalil Mack.
Khalil Mack, right? So if they were both free agents, which would you rather have?
Still would be Khalil because
I
I
would
feel like we have so much talent. We spent a first round pick on LVN. We have other guys that we want to get into that position. Let's have an elite talent that's done it for 10 years come over and teach him some things. Get him a ring on the way out and get him out of here.
That would be pretty cool to see Khalil Mack rotating.
That's what you bring one vet in for D, one vet in for O. We didn't do Bobby Wagner last year. We'll bring in Khalil this year. Bring in Tay on the offense, and it's not like they need to run the show or anything. Just give insights, give pointers.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's a valid. Hey, fam says Emilio signaling his Tex-Mex friends. There you go. Respect Orange says LVN needs a tutor.
Greg Rice says AFAM wears leg warmers to Walmart. just getting to the pertinent stuff right away.
This show sucks so bad. I'm so sleepy today too, boys. I'm trying to hold it together, but I've reached that level where everything's just funny to me. I'm just ready for bed, to be honest with you. But Nebraska Rev in the free agent chat over here on the Patreon group says, I would love to see Khalil and Devontae as Packers. I feel it makes the team better on both sides. Then our offensive line practices against Mac every day, and Valentine gets to see a veteran bag of tricks every day. In addition, the D-line and receivers get the value of their wisdom, tricks, and skill. This year, I felt like our youth was holding back the development of our wide receiver room, especially. Also, I think the D-line could benefit so much from a presence like Mac. I think there's a good point to be made there, man. You guys remember how they talked about how Devontae helped shape Jair into the player he was? Because he was going up against them every day in practice. If you bring Devontae back and Carrington, Valentine, some of these guys are getting to go against them in practice, that can be very beneficial. If you bring in Khalil Mack, man, what better way to train your offensive line to have Gary on one side, Mack on the other, right?
Absolutely. Iron sharpens iron. They talk about it all the time. I think that it's something you're really paying attention to in the offseason, and then you forget about as the season goes on. So I think that continuation throughout the year, you're going up against those guys every week. You might as well have some on your own team that, it's one of those where you at practice, you got that one kid. It's like, dude, I want to match up against him every time. I'm going to smoke that guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's over for him. But you need the guys that are like, dude, I really don't want to go up against that guy right now, but he's going to make me look silly or something like that. That's where you get better. That's where you got to push it.
Yeah, definitely. Drew D says an extra benefit of Mack, it would upset Bear fans. That's a good point, right? Him obviously being a former Bear. Dan the Stan 22 says Gary and Mack on opposite sides. Who do you chip? That's a great question, right? What you probably end up doing is a lot of double chipping with the tight end and the backs.
Mm-hmm. And then if Gary comes off and Mack is still on, you still have someone you have to chip and worry about. You're not doing a whole rotation of, hey, we can do one-on-ones across the line because, Mosby's in kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun to see Khalil Mack and JJ and Igbari playing together. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, that would be cool. So what would that look like financially? Let's talk about that for a second. If you went and signed Khalil Mack in free agency, some are saying as old as he is, $15 million for 1 year, right? Others are saying no, it'd be closer to 25 or 30. Let's say it's in the middle somewhere. Let's say you can get him for 1 year, $18 million, right, against the cap. And you go get Devontae and you get that contract down to about 20 mil, right? You're talking about tying up roughly 38 million in cap. That's pretty much your free agents, right? That's what you're signing in free agents. I don't think that's a bad way to look at this year, seeing that we were young, inexperienced, obviously had a lot of penalties, a lot of mental mistakes. Wide receivers running the wrong choice routes. Matt LaFleur talked about that once again this year. You obviously had the drops. You'd like to think that the drops would go down with Devontae getting a good portion of the targets as well. Khalil Mack would help fix a little bit of that pressure issue for you, right? It would take heat off of Gary. If you were to say that's your 2 free agent signings, Devontae Adams, let's say the Jets cut him, you go sign him. You sign Khalil Mack, and you can maneuver and restructure the contracts with plenty of space and even be able to roll a bunch of cap into the next year to get ready for the future. And keep in mind, if these guys are gone the next year, if this is a one-and-done type thing, you're freeing up another $30 million in cap space next year, right? As long as you don't tack on any voidable years. But if you approach it that way and you turn around and you get a 3-tech in the draft, let's say you get a Walter Nolan or a Derek Harmon, one of these guys that everybody absolutely loves, and then the rest of the draft, say the second round, you pick up an interior offensive lineman or even a tackle that you kind of move around. You got some extra depth there, right? I really like the way that sounds. You understand what I'm saying? Like that, all that kind of fits into what we're talking about. You want to get a little more leadership, a little more veteran presence on the team. Mm-hmm. You're talking about, I don't think you're overpaying for good with those 2 players. You're overpaying for great, right? Okay. So that makes sense. If you get that extra edge rusher and you go and grab a 3-tech in the draft there in the first round, you're technically saying, okay, wide receiver is the last piece we're putting in place in Devontae. You understand what I'm saying? Am I talking myself into this, or does this make sense to you guys too?